There are different ways to do anything in Grasshopper, but we can start simply with making a few points and use them to control curves, lines or splines. We start with a point XYZ component, and we want to add it to the canvas. Where do we find it? We can find it underneath the Vector tab. The Vector tab has several groups with operations and commands related to points, positions, vectors, and some operations that you can apply on them. We find them underneath the Point subtab. Most of these tabs only display the most important commands, but if you extend it, you can see that there are different commands available, and they are also displayed with their full name. However, we want to use the construct point command, which is the way to construct a point using an X, a Y, and a Z coordinate. We simply drag the component onto the canvas. The canvas is emptied, and now we have a single component available. You also see a small cross displayed in the Rhino viewport. If we deselect the component, the geometry is red. If we select a component, it's green, and you see that the object itself is also highlighted in green, which gives you a visual indication of what you just created. From here on, you can add a few sliders onto the canvas, which can be found underneath the Parametric tab. A tab with different panels and components. And the slider, the number slider, can be used to steer a certain parameter. And the parameter means you can define a range of values. We connect the parameter to the X input, and now we can control the X position of this particular point. The other two are defaulted at 0, so they don't change. We can copy and paste the slider and connect it again, or drag a new one onto the canvas. You see that when you connect a default slider to a parameter, the current name of the parameter, Z coordinate, is used as the name of the slider. Each of these sliders can be further manipulated. We can enable or disable it. We can choose a different type of sliders. And we'll get a full overview if you go to the Edit menu with all the properties of the slider. You can give the particular name, how you want to display it. You see both a text or just a shape. In most cases we use shape and text. The type of rounding, it's a real number of an integer, an even or odd numbers. We say, okay, we want a real number, but only with one decimal point. We want to define a range that is between -10 and let's double click +10, or we can use them as kind of a number slider. And the current numeric value can be set anywhere now between -10 and +10. Okay, so we adopted the slider and made it more accessible. When you drag the slider, you see the point displayed as a red cross and moving alongside in the Rhino interface. However, remember that you cannot select this point, but you can zoom in, you can zoom out, and you can simply navigate the Rhino interface to properly see the geometry you created.